President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent.
That is true.
Yep.
That's lasering in on a point that really matters. When you talk about threat to democracy and people want to bring up January 6th, first guy to use a federal agency, use the federal agencies, I should say, pretty much all three-letter agencies to silence political speech. All right, so let's move on here to RFK. I'm not. He gets a lot of things wrong, to be clear, but every now and then he lasers in on a point, and he does it better than anyone else has done it in the media, at least in recent memory. So let me ask you this, and you can comment below. What's your opinion on RFK? Would you ever vote for him? I'm willing to bet that most of you know. Now, I do hope that he probably stays in the race because Donald Trump is, of course, beating former Vice President Biden in almost all of the polls. I was surprised to find this morning he was beating Biden in every single poll taken in Michigan going back through February.
Really?
Yeah.
My goodness, that's a big change from
huge.
2020.
That is, well, and it's a big change from even 2016. He was never winning it that consistently. And he's been winning Arizona. So the polls are interesting. And then they widen even more if you add in RFK Jr. They widen even more if you add in Cornel West and Jill Stein. So
She still does this?
yeah, she still does this. God. So he serves a purpose. But we have this election obviously coming up in case you didn't know. And a big part of the messaging right now is that Joe Biden is going to save democracy, right? That's on the ticket, is saving democracy. RFK Jr. makes a really good point here today, and I think he's made it better than anyone else that I can't think of, and you can comment if you disagree with me, I can't think of any administration that has been a greater threat to democracy.
Right.
And I know some people will say, well, Barack Obama, but keep in mind, Barack Obama was the first, a radical, certainly, compared to, let's say, we had Clinton, we had, George W. Bush, George Bush Sr. there before him. If you go all the way back, really, Reagan. He was the first radical, but he had to come into office and had to maintain this veneer of being moderate, right? He came in as a president who was against gay marriage until he was pro-gay marriage. But former Vice President Biden is the first person to come into this office on the tailwind of male and female doesn't exist and men should compete in women's sports. This is the first truly radical administration I would say that I've seen in my lifetime from the get-go. You can comment if you disagree. And that also applies to their approach on the First Amendment. We kind of wondered before what would happen if woke people would get into the White House, would get into a position of power, because it kind of came up, I guess I should say, into cultural power post Barack Obama, Donald Trump. Well, now we know. Now we know exactly. And yesterday, RFK Jr. actually talked about this with Aaron Burnett. They tried to set him up and ask about Donald Trump being a threat to democracy. He gave them a surprising answer.
You godless son of a bitch! You stop this shit! You godless son of a bitch!
Sorry, wrong clip. Here's RFK Jr.
A moment ago, you said you essentially see Trump and Biden as the same, different issues. But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history that has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent.
Now, we're going to fact check the interview, but boom, nailed it. That's a true statement. It's a broad statement. We will get into the specifics. That is true.
Yep.
That's lasering in on a point that really matters. When you talk about threat to democracy and people want to bring up January 6th, first guy to use a federal agency, use the federal agencies, I should say, pretty much all three-letter agencies to silence political speech. That's about as important as it gets.
No, absolutely, because he goes on later to say, like, it allows you to do all kinds of other things if you do that. And he said, look, think about it. Can you think of a president in the history of this country that has done that has used basically to silence his opponents? He's just basically gotten rid of the First Amendment. And Aaron, she phrased the question in a way where she thought, do you think those are equal? Thinking, oh, of course it can't be equal, right? And he came with the answer she was not expecting, which was, Biden is a greater threat.
Right. Well, then when she gets that answer,
panic button.
Yes,
exactly.
CNN hit the panic
tries.
Yeah, exactly. They hit the dump button.
Yes. Don't just watch the reaction. First, always listen to the question, see how it's framed, and then listen to the reaction once they give an answer, because Burnett's reaction here is very telling. She immediately tries to discredit RFK and, of course, use this to slam President Trump.
Donald Trump, of course, tried to overturn a free and fair election. He tried to overturn one, right? He's still fighting in court.
Yes.
How is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponents, it has license for any atrocity.
Don't you just love how Erin Burnett, she just tries to say the opposite of reality? Like, oh, so no, but you're saying this, but what actually is this? No, that's the opposite of reality. Like a magic trick. It's smoke and mirrors. And unfortunately, we're all too familiar with magic tricks here at the Louder with Crowder offices.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a note.
To Josh from Secret Admirer. Nice. Do not open until you've spoken the words of this magic phrase. Abracadabra, abracazam, do your best to protect your face? I don't remember that.
I don't know why we put him on retainer either.
It was a bad idea. I'm sorry. I tried.
Thanks, CEO. All right, let's go through the claims and the truth from RFK.
Some things right.
Yeah, you get some things right. It's okay. We'll have a nice little Gerald. We'll have a baby-shaped Gerald break for a while.
Well, I don't know. I want to see the rest of the trick.
Yeah. Well, we all do. But that's the key, is leave the audience wanting more.
Yeah.
He does that, if nothing else.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Let's go through the claims here. The first claim from RFK Jr., and all references are available, of course, at louderwithcrowder.com. He makes the claim that the Biden administration weaponized federal agencies to censor speech. It's a broad claim. It's only poignant if it's true. Here's the truth. Of course, you've been following this. If you've been watching the show for a long time, the Biden administration directly colluded with big tech to censor political views that they did not like. Now, they labeled it disinformation. What qualifies as disinformation? Well, any information, especially during COVID at that time, that went against the governing bodies, effectively the government. So I'll give you some specifics here. He used the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA for short, to specifically go after disinformation, right? And that would include some examples. For example, here,
yes.
Disinformation was saying that the flu was more deadly to toddlers and infants than COVID, and citing even the CDC's own numbers, but that was something that the administration didn't like, and so we were suspended on YouTube for that reason.
Yeah, and it's basically a moving target. Whatever the three-letter agencies say is disinformation is disinformation. So it doesn't matter if it's true or not, it just matters what they say.
Well, like here's another example. Any type of information on the mRNA vaccine was being removed from Facebook. And remember the lab leak theory? They used to call it the lab leak theory.
What the hell are we talking about?
Removed.
Yeah.
Removed. Disinformation. What at that point in time, the Biden administration, of course, did not want you to believe that there could have been a leak from a lab named after the virus.
No, they named the lab first. Second.
It doesn't matter.
They wanted you to believe bats from like 1,000 miles away.
Yes.
It just happened to be in the area.
So they removed it, but even worse, under the Biden administration, the direct orders completely throttled, right, shadow ban creators that went against the narrative at that time. So imagine you're a news agency, let alone you're a podcast host, or you're a commentator, or you're an author. You could be a Pulitzer-winning writer, for example, and you no longer can reach the people who decided to like your own page because you're saying, actually, it seems like COVID might have leaked from a lab. Remember, some of you may be new here. We were told that it was from a wet market from someone eating a bat.
Yeah.
Originally. People believe that shit.
Like it was Crazy Train.
Yeah, everyone's like, it came from a bat. What do you think it came from a lab that engineers viruses?
No.
No.
That's the stuff of movies.
Come on now.
Can't happen.
Here's another example. Of course, the Biden administration specifically had Twitter ban the parody account linked to his granddaughter, Finnegan Biden. Right? It was removed within 45 minutes of the request. A parody account. Of course, you still have parody accounts all over Twitter.
Yeah.
They didn't remove all parody accounts. It was this administration had a direct line saying, hey, can you take that down? So anything skeptical of the mRNA vaccine, gone. Lab leak theory, gone. Directly at the behest of this administration. That is using these 3-letter agencies, in this case a 4-letter agency. Yes, what he just said is correct. Here's another claim that he makes. Unless, were you about to?
No, you're
okay.
good.
Another claim that he makes, and he's doing pretty well here in this interview, where he talks about the First Amendment. And it's not so much a claim, but he's expressing a point of view. But it is verifiable historically that violating the First Amendment, and this is why it's so important, he says is the worst thing that a president could do.
The First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponent,
She tried to silence him.
it has license for any atrocity.
Worst thing you can do. Second worst thing a president can do is shit himself at the Vatican.
Gross.
Dishonorable mention would be showering with his 19-year-old daughter. Give or take, I don't know.
I think it was younger.
It was, 7 years.
Sorry, but remember, that journal was fake.
Right, because it's disinformation.
That was disinformation. Was removed, and then they raided James O'Keefe's
Let's see. It's so fake.
private residence, took it, and then they said, well, it turns out it was real.
Turns out. Verification.
Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah, but you can't see it.
No.
And that part's definitely not in it.
You know what else was disinformation? The Hunter Biden laptop.
Yes.
On this very program, Rudy Giuliani, mayor of New York, Times Person of the Year, to keep in mind, showed the laptop live on air for the first time. That was removed. That episode was removed. We were suspended. I don't know if it still exists on YouTube. You can watch it here on Rumble. Of course, on Mug Club, we have all of the archives. That was disinformation, and that affected the election.
Yeah.
Here's the truth on violating the First Amendment, and I want to keep this pretty short because we could get off into the weeds here. Yes, it's very clear that it's Amendment number 1 because all of the other protections rely on it. So James Madison, in case you don't, author, Bill of Rights.
Who's that? Oh.
Big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know what he sounds like, probably. Our First Amendment freedoms give us the right to think what we like and say what we please. And if we people are to govern ourselves, we must have these rights, even if they are misused by a minority.
That's Humdinger from Paw Patrol. What are you doing?
I have no idea.
No, you're nailing the impression. Don't listen to Paw Patrol over here.
It's a little bit of the
He's on
magician
a roll.
from
Let him-
Frosty.
Yeah.
It is.
I liked it.
I have to draft up the rest of the Bill of Rights. I'll be busy. So let me ask you this question, just because there will be so many examples we could go to. Can you name me any great civil rights movement or freedoms in the modern world here, certainly the Western world, that didn't start with speech? I mean, when you're talking about black Americans' voting rights, when you're talking about, any constitutional protection. Just go through it. Has any civil right been granted, I should say recognized, because of the way our government works, without leading through speech? Because if you don't have freedom of speech, guess what? Your only option is violence. So you have a history of the world that was violence and war and conflict and bloodshed. And then you have a very stark contrast when you have a government say, no, hold on a second. The right to speak freely, regardless of your opinion, is a God-given right that the government must recognize and protect. That was a fundamental difference. You had a world of violence, bloodshed, war. That was the way. Yeah. And so many of you have no idea that that is how the world is still outside of this place. Go to Nigeria. Go to the Middle East. Go to different regions of India right now.
I mean, go to Great Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Especially in
Scotland,
certain
England.
places. Yeah. Within there. I mean, we would never have known about this, and I think we'll talk about Twitter and Elon Musk a little bit in a minute, but we would never have known about this had he not purchased Twitter and had the Twitter files not come out. Right? We may have at some point figured out something was going on, but we would never have known how closely the government was using big tech to censor ideas, and not just saying, hey, maybe this is a good idea for you, that guys, to go and stop this disinformation, saying, I cannot stress to you enough the importance that this is removed immediately.
Right.
That kind of language being used by the federal government. And I'm telling you, when the federal government comes a knocking on your business, you tend to pay attention because they don't have to play by the rules. They can just come in and make your life a living hell.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's the kind of threat. They're like the mob. They didn't need to threaten you. You knew the threat existed and you were like, yes, sir, I'll do it right away, sir.
Let me give you an example. Okay. If you're watching right now, have you ever been audited? Or do you know anyone who's been audited, right, by the IRS? More people fear being audited than being mugged or being violently assaulted. Okay? So if you've been audited, comment below, or if you know someone, a close family member or friend. All right. You know the fear. And the fear is because they can find anything. There's going to be an infraction if they want there to be, and you are fighting a never-ending supply of funding, a government agency known as the IRS, right? You feel very helpless. Now, take that exact same scenario. That's what all big tech platforms had to deal with. That's where they found themselves in the face of three-letter agencies from the administration. It's, crap. We're a multi-billion-dollar, we're going to be audited. And they say, but we'll give you the out. Take away the lab leak theory.
Yeah.
Take away the Hunter Biden laptop. Take away anything on the mRNA vaccine. Take away anything on election interference. We're going to audit you, and we're letting you know that we're going to find something, meaning we'll make something, here's your out. And they took the out.
Until they get their story straight.
Right.
So we're not even talking about things that they continue to fight over. We're talking about things that they have since reversed their stance on.
Yes.
And they basically are saying, cover us now. Run cover for us until we've told people so many times that Donald Trump was trying to steal the election, so many times that January 6th was a terrorist attack, so many times that Russia interfered and there was collusion, so many times that the Hunter Biden laptop doesn't even matter. And then finally, you can ask those questions.
You can ask those questions.
It's totally fine now because we've had it so ingrained in people that those things aren't true that we don't care. Go ahead and talk about them again.
Right.
That's the worst kind of thing. If they were at least consistent and still saying you can't say that, that would at least be something we could go like, okay, I disagree with that point of view. You should never be able to do that. But to go back and to see it so clearly 1-2 years later, 6 months later in some cases, that they reversed their position and said, yeah, you can go ahead and talk about that now. Nobody's going to believe you anyway. We don't care.
Right. Yep. It's a good point. By the way, we don't get any revenue from big tech at all.
Yeah.
It's many millions of dollars less. Yes, that's right.
They won't do it.
At the YouTube, we're not on each rate. So none of this happens without you. Mug Club, louderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. It's $89 annually. You get everything. You can go and check out all the shows there, all the extra content, and of course the investigative unit. Or you can try Mugless for $9 a month if you want to. But you don't get this wonderful hand-etched girthy.
It's very girthy.
Very girthy.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I will say, sometimes people complain about
That's all what I always say about everything I love. It's
Yes.
all girth, baby.
That's what she said.
Yeah, even 5 inches counts.
It's the girth of the earth. That's what I love.
Whoa.
Quick hot tip is some people say, my drink will get cold. You need to preheat because it's such a big mug. If the mug is sitting on a cold shelf and it's thick, it's actually going to act as like a cooler. So preheat the mug with hot water first, and it'll actually keep it hot for a very long time. But it's a heat sink. It's physics. It's thermodynamics.
It's science.
All right.
Something.
Now let's fact check the media. No, that is true.
It's true.
It's true.
Fact check.
I'm going to have you removed from
No, don't censor me.
Facebook.
Something?
I don't know. Oh my gosh, it's Lurch on CNN. What happened?
You rang.
Yes.
Oh, boy. That haircut is
That is
point.
bizarre.
Literally, there's a point.
Give me the old movie theater curtains.
Yes.
I'll look like Cousin Ed in a stiff breeze that blows it down.
Her forehead should say now showing.
Yes, now showing. Just says, let's all go to the lobby.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Trying to eat the treats on her forehead. All right. So a big claim from the media is that Trump, some people call him former president. Some people call him sitting president. I call him sitting president.
Sitting,
okay,
yeah, for sure.
But you don't have to. That he's a way bigger threat to democracy. This is from Washington Post. They said, this is fine. It's just, let's just read this description. Washington Post, they were speaking to the Washington Post, a Harvard political scientist. So you know it's important.
Daniel Ziblatt?
Yeah. Daniel Ziblatt said, to be a politician committed to democracy, there are 2 cardinal rules.
Only 2?
One must accept election outcomes, win or lose. Eat your heart out, Navalny.
He can't. He's dead.
Oh, he's dead. That's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Yep.
To be a politician committed to democracy, there are two. One must accept election outcomes, win or lose. There's so much wrong with that statement.
Yes.
Oh, well, no, that makes sense. I've heard that said every year for the last 225 years.
Just accept the outcomes no matter what. And then one must not threaten to use violence to gain power. And this person said, Donald Trump has clearly violated both rules while President Biden never has.
What?
And that's, by the way, that's a misprint. Obviously meant former Vice President
Former
Biden.
Vice President.
But, okay. Truth. A few things. First off, you have this administration, you have Kamala Harris encouraging people to commit more acts of violence, saying they're not going to stop with the Summer of Love, Black Lives Matter riots, $2 billion in damages, nor should they stop. You literally have the only president who has repeatedly threatened to punch people, former vice president, repeatedly threatened to punch people in the face or take them out behind the bike racks.
I take him out back.
I take him out back. Like, I don't think there's ever been someone to threaten punching people in the face more than former Vice President Biden. But here's a really important truth. Of course, it's not undemocratic to question election integrity at all. That's part of, some could almost argue, part of a constitutional republic, a democracy, to use your incorrect term, challenging questionable results, being able to look at our election process, being able to adjust, ensuring that there's transparency. If it was undemocratic to question election results, there would never be any election audits ever, like Russia. And by the way,
The election was perfect.
yes, he was perfect.
Why would you bring
Stop
that?
talking, Stephen.
95% of people vote for me.
Oh, you are going to run for shallow grave. I mean, president.
My opponent, who will be dead tomorrow,
Yes.
is a liar.
Yes, we do not, but listen, do not question results. Let's not be anti-democratic.
No. We have long tables.
We are committed to representative democracy. Right, okay, can we audit it? Kill that man.
No.
You are free.
95% approval rating.
Yes, exactly.
It'll be 100 tomorrow. Don't worry. They'll kill the rest.
And by the way, no one loves questioning election results more than, well, when they actually are legitimate, just to be clear, than Democrats. Let's just go through a brief list. Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey Abrams, Jamie Carter, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Navalny.
It's almost like it is our responsibility to question and make sure that election results are absolutely what the will of the people was in the election. It seems like that's something that we should do.
Well, at least when there's fishy stuff going on, for sure.
Yes, exactly.
Like a flood in Atlanta and mystery tote in Michigan.
No. Hey.
It was a pipe.
Lest we run afoul of any guidelines and the government come knocking on our door, it's the safest and securest election in American history.
Most
I have
free.
no idea
Yes.
how they would come up with that.
Most free, most fair, safest, unless a pipe bursts in Atlanta, but it didn't burst, so I guess the point is moot.
Most
I mean,
safest.
it was the safest way for dead people to vote ever.
It really was.
So
They've never had it better.
They didn't double die.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
How else is Marciano going to vote?
That's fair.
He has rights too. Let me ask you this. Is there anything that you love as much as Democrats love? Challenging legitimate elections? I can't think of anything. Like, I wish I loved playing, I don't know, violin or something as much as they love questioning legitimate election results. What?
Yeah.
Just because I feel like my life would have more joy.
They feel like an argument for who won MVP this year.
Yes.
No, he didn't have enough hits or whatever.
Exactly. No. Here's another truth for you. Of course, President Trump has never, ever threatened, and I know that in politics you're not supposed to speak in absolutes, right? They say don't say something like that because you might get in trouble if there's one exception. There are no exceptions. President Trump has never threatened violence to gain power. Period.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Huh. That sounds very First Amendment-y to me.
That's the one that they point to and fight like hell.
Yes.
Which is, by the way, why we've turned it into a phrase that we, of course, include at CrowderShop.com. we're not going to give up that term, fight like hell. We're never going to give it up just because someone says, I'm going to try and use this against you. The fight like hell was used in the same speech as peacefully and patriotically. That is the one, it's the reason for January 6th. It's the reason for one of the impeachments. It's the reason for all of this kabuki theater.
Yeah.
Is he encouraged people to go and attack the Capitol, and it's right there on camera. The problem is, social media shadow banned it and throttled it, so you wouldn't see that. He's never once threatened violence to gain political power, period, in stark contrast to Kamala Harris, in stark contrast to, not Stacey Abrams, who's the one who said harass them in the diner? I just forgot her name.
Oh, yeah.
Maxine Waters.
Maxine.
Oh, yeah, the bitch.
The left in general. The left in general.
Chuck Schumer, the whirlwind.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
we know exactly what you were talking about.
Exactly. So now they try and say bloodbath, right?
The problem that I have with bloodbath is like it's never been used in an economic, kind of conversation before, and it's like every clip from like CNBC and everything.
Right.
It's like bloodbath.
They're currently using
today.
bloodbath to describe the decline in stock price of Trump's.
Yeah.
I know.
Exactly.
I know. They can't help
They're
themselves.
using the word literally right now.
I guess he said it, so we can. It's a bloodbath now. It's like, no, you've
No, you already changed the definition, bud. Can't do that.
I know.
Shut up,
No
silly
takesies, backsies.
woman.
Who was he talking about then? I can't remember.
Who was he talking
Somebody
about?
find that out when Trump said, "Shut up, silly woman." I like the pause. The pause is
It is
good.
pretty good.
I don't know.
You know he was thinking of something else before he just settled on
Yeah,
woman.
he did. He was probably talking about Hillary, right? It's got to be.
It could be anyone. It could be any woman he doesn't like that day.
Could be a man.
Wait, it could be a lot of people.
It could be a man.
It could
Silence, you stinky bitch.
be. And he just polished it on the fly.
Maybe he was talking to Melania. You know? Maybe that was pillow talk. You
It
know?
does sound like how he would be upset with her.
Silly woman.
Silly woman, you're going to be the death of me.
We joke. We have fun.
And I will leave you with this, is I really do. I believe this when I say it. This administration has been the single biggest threat to the constitutional republic known as the United States in our lifetime. And imagine another 4 years if they are completely unfettered. I get it. Barack Obama was the starkest contrast for us, but he still had to kind of ease us into it. This is the first administration that came into office with all of the radical policies in place. Black Lives Matter wasn't a thing until partially through Barack Obama's administration, right? Race relations actually had improved so much that this country elected a black president, kind of. And then during his tenure, Black Lives Matter came up. And of course, they tried to become more violent as Donald Trump won the office. So then you had Black Lives Matter. Then you had I was here, just so you know, I have been broadcasting publicly since the LGBTQ. I was back here on YouTube. Well, we're not on YouTube today, but I was back here on social media and in stand-up clubs when it was just LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
Yes, it was just LGB. And they just keep expanding it. And he came into office with all of these radical policies in place, period. It was a big deal when Hillary Clinton was proposing what was effectively single-payer health care. Now it's a fundamental right. Birth control is a fundamental right. It is the most radical administration that we've ever seen from beginning, day one. And it's been the biggest threat, I would say, that has eroded our constitutional freedoms more than any administration. You can comment below. I say that without a hint of hyperbole.
Yeah, and they're also they do it under the guise of protecting democracy, right? But they're also othering us basically as conservatives and people who are part of MAGA. If you remember the speech that he gave with like this really red background, and I think it was in Philadelphia. I can't remember exactly where it was. You remember when Biden gave
and the media churned the tint.
They turned the tint down.
Yeah.
They're like, ha ha ha! No, that's not like Hitler. Let's not do Hitler, okay?
Yeah. It was like
these MAGA Republicans are ruining society.
Yes.
I'm like, well, that's just a little bit on the nose, Jeff.
It looked like the VHS cover of Devil's Advocate.
It really did. It absolutely did.
Like V from Vendetta.
But so the other thing is they actually got the thing, the silly woman. It's about the poem where, the woman picks up a snake and carries it across the river, and then the snake bites the woman and the woman's dying. And it's like, shut up, silly woman. You knew that I was a snake. No, I don't think we have the clip. It's they told me.
Oh, I thought we had the clip.
Because that's what I asked about, where it came from.
So it wasn't a real person. He was just telling a fable?
But I really hope he says it to a real person because that makes it sweeter.
You knew I was a scorpion when you met me. Silly frog. Dumb frog. The water's making you gay. Love the D.
He died like a frog.
He died like a frog.
I ate his legs.
From a scorpion, but he knew it was. Silly frog, I repeat.
We need Donald Trump reading children's stories.
Yes.
And ad-libbing because he's like, he doesn't agree with the storyline.
Mary had a little lamb.
Yes.
Mine was bigger.
If she'd listened to me.
Research chimes in and says it was a speech about illegal immigration.
Oh, shut up. I knew that.
Look.
I didn't ask for that.
Look. Before you leap,
Love you guys.
should have saved for the winter, little ant, or was it grasshopper?
Grasshopper.
Should have saved. All right.
Good night, moon. I bought the moon.
I bought it.
Slow and steady, they say, wins the race. I say, don't take a nap, asshole.
Oh, man, that's a new slogan. That's a new campaign slogan.
This shouldn't be a part of your race running strategy. Bad strategy, napping. Not good for racing, napping.
Hey, by the way, we extended the EcoFlow giveaway from last week to this week. So if you go to CrowderShop.com right now and grab one of those Fight Like Hell shirts or any of the other stuff that you like, you get the EcoFlow plus the recharging station with the little panel. So you can just fold that thing up, carry it around with you. I wouldn't carry it around at a ball game or something like that.
Well,
might
you
look a
don't
little
get
weird.
it. You are entered into
No. You're entered.
I don't need EcoFlow. I have a strong stream. Frothy.
Go home to mommy.
The thing is, I can't say anything that's more.
He says childish things.
Yes. You're like, oh, well, he already taught me.
It's so funny.
I once knew a man from Nantucket, but I'm not going to finish it, folks, right?
But you know.
People don't want me to, but I think you know. He tried it. All right, that's enough.
No, just stop.
Oh, no. I think I know who it is.
Oh, my gosh. It's going to be the most fun 4 years when he wins again.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
I got to work on an impression.
It's not bad.
I'm trying.
It's just
I'm
fun.
trying.
It's capturing the energy, the essence.
Watch Louder with Crowder live Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.